My name is Tudor. I work in the process industry sector for a company called Hydrotite, and my position is Technical Development Manager. Hydrotite's a global company that works in the process integrity sector. Basically, we ensure that any bolted connections on any kind of process equipment, be it from an oil rig to an FPSO to an onshore refinery or chemical plant, that all these connections are bolted together sufficiently strongly so that there's no leaks from the process fluid. I started engineering at a fairly early age, about 16 or so. I started working at kind of part-time jobs, put myself through A-levels, and then I went on to a thing called the Engineering Education Scheme whilst I was studying for my A-levels. From there I moved on to the air industry. Took a year out before I started university working for a small engineering company in Newcastle. I moved on from there to my degree at Northumbria, and through there I've been working for various different engineering companies. My advice to the students would be to get as much practical experience and research as you possibly can. So look for things like the Engineering Education Scheme, where you can spend practical time with companies learning about engineering. The Air and Industry Scheme, which gets you a year out before you start working for an actual company, real paid work, which gives you that kind of leg up from other students as you go into getting a real job. And then really just looking at the industry you're interested in and just getting as much research to where you want to be and what you would like to do. Some of the biggest things you can do to help progress your career, especially within involvement with the IMechE, is to get involved with the different panels, groups and young members panels, especially as you're developing. I currently sit as a young member on the IMechE's Pressure Systems group, which is specifically related to the process industry for me. We've just run a series of very high-profile events, one in Newcastle and a few last year, which are spreading the interesting news that's been coming on in the pressure systems area. Outside of that, I also work with the young members panel up in Newcastle. We run events on generally a monthly basis, getting big companies in on interesting topics. We've got people like Aston Martin coming in April, actually bringing their new four-door Rapide car up to Newcastle, so that you can actually have a look and see how that's been engineered and developed. Again, it gives you access to people who are interested in the same kind of things. It gives you the experience that you need in organising, even if it's just a 5-minute talk by somebody. It gives you an interesting set of skills you can then apply in your day-to-day work, with working with other engineers, working with non-engineers especially, and communicating information effectively. For me, there's no such thing as an average day. It can be anything from an early morning support call with someone in the Middle East or the Far East, starting work around about 8 o'clock in the morning. Then from there, a boring day would be starting off kind of reviewing legislation and standards, and just working on documents that kind of capture changes in the industry and get those pushed out to our engineers on site. On a good day, it would mean a little more varied than that, spending some time down the lab working with our engineers and technicians on our new R&D technology. On a very good day, it could mean getting a phone call and being shipped across somewhere interesting in the world to work on a project where there's some kind of issue happened or some kind of question popped up. It's quite wide and varied, the number of jobs you can have in the different industry, within the process sector anyway. It can be anything from materials technology, designing the right kind of metals to use in different pipelines and so on, designing the equipment, heat exchangers, pressure vessels. On the design side, you'll then move on to the fabrication side, different yards that actually make these things and put them together, and then the project management companies and actual project running companies who then go off to the different location and put them together. So you can go anywhere from the purely theoretical designing kind of CAD side all the way across to actually being on site, installing and fabricating pressure vessels and equipment. And not to mention when you go down to the subsea side, there's diverless interventions, remote operated vehicles, subsea connections both at the surface level and at the seabed level. So the variety of jobs is it's quite broad. Getting chartered is quite a big thing for me. It's one of my main career goals at the moment. It's a recognition of your level of capability as an engineer. It's a kind of stamp to say that the IMechE recognise you have all the qualities needed to be a trained, competent engineer and actually use the title of engineer. So personally, it's quite a big goal for me. I'm working towards it at the moment, hopefully submission in a few months' time. And it's not as difficult as it's made out to be. There's a lot of work involved. You need quite a bit of kind of practical experience before you can really go for it. My particular route at the moment is outside of the monitored professional development scheme and actually working towards it through a company submission. So I take up all the projects that I work on, write them up as a report, show how I'm demonstrating the different competencies for the IMechE, submit that and then attend an interview and hopefully at the end of it become a chartered engineer.